first one, unresolved childhood pain points. They are still there. They were lurking beneath the surface, and they still haunt us today. Second, our inability to sit with emotional discomfort. Tell me, have you ever met someone who deals with addiction who can sit with emotional pain? I have yet. I've yet to meet anyone who can do it. Okay. So what are they doing? They're running. They look for things to distract themselves, and they've done it from a very early age, and we'll get into that as we go along. The third factor, and I think this is pretty interesting, this one, I've only figured this out in the last 6 years or so. Most are emotionally undeveloped. And what I mean by that is they were not given the skill set they needed in the early stages of childhood development, such as learning to attune, having empathy, identifying their emotions, learning to regulate mood, learning how to sit with emotional pain. And because of that, right, that adds another aspect to addictive behaviors, right? It's the idea that they are really seeking emotional connection and intimacy. They just don't know what it is. So therefore, there seems to be a void that's there because of this. So that's why, for me, I believe this idea that being sober is not enough. We have to go down. Yes, right. An inability to delay gratification. We're going to talk about that in a moment with that. But here it is, the idea of, again, we need to be able to teach them to be emotional beings. The final step that I'm talking about, or factor that I believe plays into all of this, anxiety. It is our anxiety. And, it's interesting how many people I've worked with over the years, whether it be in the individual setting, a group setting, who, when I bring up the idea of anxiety, I'm not anxious. No, anxiety, that's not me. And, you can tell. I mean, if you've been doing it for so long, you can see the sense of anxiousness that they have. And then when you work with them, it doesn't take too long for them to realize, oh my gosh, I am anxious. And a lot of that has to do, again, with what happened in childhood, whether trauma or neglect. You have to remember, we're talking about two different things there. Not everything is a trauma. Sometimes it's a neglect that's going on. And a lot of times it's emotional neglect. Good parents, well-meaning people, just don't have the skill set, or there are other things going on in their lives that are causing a problem. So why is anxiety so important? Because as your anxiety increases, so does your compulsiveness. Right? That's a fact. That's just what happens. When your compulsiveness increases, so does your risk of making poor decisions. So therefore, if you look at that and you say, whoa, you know what do I do here? How do you fix all this? Go back to the source. Work with them to lower that anxiety. And that is something that I spend a lot of time with my client, trying to get them to understand, what does it feel like when I am less anxious? And what does it feel like when I am anxious? Because a lot of times they don't even recognize what's going on. So they have to be able to slow down so that they can feel what's happening with them physically, what's happening mentally, what's happening emotionally, so that they can, again, say, all right, I am escalated, but you know what? I know how to bring myself back to a place of homeostasis, that I can be calmer. So again, important goal here. So when we're dealing with these four factors, okay, we're looking at unresolved childhood pain points. What are we doing? One, we're trying to identify them. It's a big task, because in many cases, people don't remember. Again, remember, a lot of them are subconscious. So we are going to try to go back and see if we can bring some of them to the surface. It doesn't matter. We don't have to bring all of them. All we're trying to do is get a sense of, what were the major buckets when it came to childhood pain point. With anxiety, we're going to proactively manage it. We're going to teach them, again, especially with a lot of meditation, journaling, things like that, especially the meditation, I think is so important, that they learn how to proactively manage that anxiety. Therefore, when they get into a crisis, because one of those unresolved childhood pain points have been triggered, they can be able to bring themselves back very quickly. That inability to process emotional discomfort, all right? They're going to learn how to do that. They're going to learn to sit with their emotional distress and understand, oh, that didn't kill me. Oh, okay. Well, wow. All right. Yeah, it wasn't good. I didn't really like it, but you know what? I can do this. That's what we want to see. Because for some of them, it seems so overwhelming and they can't even think about touching it. And then being emotionally developed is teaching them how to be mature. And what I've done is I've identified 14 what I call blind spots. For example, we are inwardly focused. We lack curiosity when it comes to people and asking probing questions. We're very fearful. Fear, I think, is something that runs through all of this. You have to be addressing those fear factors. And again, there's 14 of them that we go through, and clients learn using the antidote how to soften those blind spots. They're not going away. They're not going away. Just like the unresolved childhood pain points are not going away. We're going to talk about my inner child. My inner child, my concept of the inner child, very different than what you've seen elsewhere.